So I want to welcome everybody and hope everybody's doing okay. Part of this isn't going to be a talking head. My expectation really today, or the purpose of really hosting this, was to discuss and provide kind of a dialogue. I really want to get feedback of business owners more than anything else. And part of the reason for that is, we're getting ready. It's getting close to that end of that stay-at-home order, and people are, well, there's already states that are talking and are already starting up, and it's creating a mess and everything else. So that idea today, really what I wanted to do was have a dialogue and just try and get an idea, who's prepared, how are you preparing your business to get back to work, what's got you worried about all of this stuff, where do you need more guidance, what's got you pissed off, how do you think things have or will be changing for businesses as we go through. So this is just kind of an open forum, and part of what I'm looking for here is what kind of resources do business owners need in order to help them prepare to open back up, okay? And my hope is that people can open back up and do better than they did before the shutdown. So, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of going out and is out there. So I just wanted to kind of open it up and have an open discussion for that and see if anybody had anything that they'd like to kind of start with. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to share to get started?
I'd like to put my foot in the water, and the number one thing I'm going to tell you is that we've only been working from home for the past 36 years, so we're kind of new at it. You know that,
Yeah, I know.
I opened my practice as an estate planning and business lawyer, lived in the same place, bought a house, lived in the same place, bought another house, lived in that place. Bought this house, for 18 floors.
Mr. Stratton, it's really hard to hear you.
Stratton, can you get closer to your mic, or where is your mic?
Right there.
Okay, now I hear you better.
All right. At any rate, after 36 years of doing this, we've kind of gotten to be experts at it. And here are a few things I made just quick observations on.
Okay.
I think this is a dynamic change for a lot of people because they have never done this before.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're working at home and beginning to think, hey, this isn't all that bad. We had a hard time, as Dino knows, I married my paralegal, kept it in the family, if you will, and as a result, we worked together. So we've been very comfortable doing this. It's a dynamic change for so many people. For professionals, I think it can be done. My accountant is working from home right now and doing very well with it. We're working from home. We found it's a better environment, and we get better results here than we do getting in a car, commuting a long distance, spending a lot of money on gas, mechanics, insurance, and all the other stuff, and arriving at a place to go to work. I save an hour a day simply by not having to go anywhere.
Right.
I have a 20-foot commute.
20-foot commute. That's good. I like that.
It also, I have a couple of clients who are both very high-end software programmers.
Okay.
And their preference is they work from home. They work for different companies, but they work from home. And I've asked them, you guys are recently married. Are you planning to have some children? And their answer was, yes, we are. And I said, well, think about this. Since you're working from home and you've got plenty of space for kids, you're not going to have a problem being parents.
Right.
It's simply going to be part of your normal day. You have better family time.
Right.
I laughingly say that Susan and I, after 36 years, if we have a bad day, we already know we've had a bad day. I don't have to go home and explain it and read it all over again.
She lived it with you, right?
In addition to that, if we have something that we really feel the need to, we can take hug breaks.
Right.
And that's really important. From another standpoint, we have a lower overhead. And while when we began this, we had to convince people that this was not some half-assed way of practicing law, this was really serious.
Yeah.
And they learned that. And they actually found that our interesting way of doing this was attractive enough that they recommended people to us more readily than most attorneys got. So I really don't have a hard time finding new clients because we treat people like they're almost a member of the family.
Family, right? Yeah. Cool.
So
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Yeah,
that's
I
got
would
anything?
love to chime in as somebody. I'm a salon manager at a salon, obviously at a salon. I physically can't work from home. My associates physically can't work from home. And, you know, there's a lot of laws in place, you know, as to why it's illegal. But I feel like this shutdown has been great for people that can work from home, but for other industries, it's been detrimental. And I'm really looking forward to what you have to say, because I feel like there are a lot of issues going on in the salon industry. There's just not a lot of business-minded salon owners out there. So there's a lot of mistakes happening. And I would love to see this be like a revival, you know, for different industries, that we come back and we're going to come back doing things the right way.
Okay. That's a good point, I think, too. So go ahead, Evelyn. How about you? What you got your hand raised there?
I do. You know, and speaking to what Britt is talking about also, as we get back offline and in person, you know, I'm really wondering what the trust levels are going to be in general about being able to get going and launched again. You know, am I going to feel comfortable and safe going into a restaurant again, you know, with people who are coughing or sneezing? Am I going to feel okay going into a salon again? I think that's going to be a big conversation with people along the way, for those industries that are hands-on. You know, the guy I'm dating is a massage therapist. He's like same position you are, Britt. It's a hands-on field. And, you know, how do you navigate that when, you know, now like staying clean? I mean, we're looking at cases now. They're saying the first case may have been February 6th. And how did that get, you know, now they're saying that people can carry COVID and show they have the antibodies and still be transmitting it. I mean, it's just going to be interesting.
Nobody knows. So there's lots of fear out there, obviously, of what to do. And they're not even sure as to what it is. So should we really be opening back up for business in that? So I'm hearing what you're saying for sure, Evelyn. So has anybody, so one of the things, for those of you that know me, I mean, I'm always kind of trying to forward look and see what's coming down the pike and that sort of thing, to be prepared, because, you know, when my clients come to me for advice and guidance, you know, they want me to have the answers. So last week they published the guidelines from the White House. Has anybody seen the guidelines that have been published from the White House at this point? If you haven't, I suggest that you go out. It's whitehouse.gov/opening America. That's the, I'll post it in the chat box out there, so everybody's got that that link as well. Let me put that out there right now, so if you guys want to go out and check that out, you can see that. It's interesting out there because they've kind of laid things out in a phased approach. So, you know, there's 3 phases. There's some criteria that we have to meet. So it's not like we're just going to flip a switch. There's actually criteria that the White House has said, when we have this, then we can say, all right, let's go forward, and we can open up and begin to do whatever it is that needs to be done with phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. The other thing to keep aware of too is, depending on what industry you're in, you may not be open back up in phase 1. And I think that's another thing that people aren't necessarily seeing is, you know, when do I open up? You know, the other thing I think you need to keep in mind too is there are guidelines in terms of they still want this whole social distancing thing, and you want to make sure that people are keeping the right distance that they need. And like you said, Britt, and like you brought up, Evelyn, I mean, if the job that you have means that you have to be within direct contact with somebody, are they going to allow you to open the doors up day one in phase one? And the way that these things are kind of coming out, that's not necessarily, I think, part of what you're going to see begin to happen. So I highly recommend that you go out there, look at what it is, and that would probably also give you an idea or be able to give you some sense as to, can I even open up? What should my plan be in opening up? And what things do I need to consider? Because I think those are some of the things that I've kind of identified that I don't think people have thought. They just think, it's like, well, I'm going to go back to work and tomorrow I'm going to have to go back to work. Nope. I mean, I don't think people like you, Britt, or, like your boyfriend, Evelyn, anyone that's used to working in a licensed environment where there are a set of guidelines and restrictions that you have to follow are not going to have as much problem as some of the other people. People that are wide open and have never had any restrictions put on them, they're going to have restrictions that are going to be required of them now, disinfecting everything down, making sure that you test everybody that comes in the door. How many stores do you know that have to do that kind of stuff? And so that's what my concern is, have people really thought through all the things that they're going to have to do in order to open the doors up? And does that put undue overhead on you to even say, I don't even know if I should open the business back up? It may not be in my best interest to do that. So, those are the things. I don't think people have necessarily thought those things through. And I'm interested to hear other people's kind of input on some of that stuff as well. So.
I have a question really quick about going phase one, phase two, phase three. Are there like a set amount of guidelines for it? I pulled up the website, but I'm listening, so I didn't want to start reading it. But for example, Georgia, they were just like, you know what, let's open salons and tattoo shops and stuff. It's fine. And I feel like that shouldn't be a phase one choice at all.
It's funny you asked that, Britt, because I haven't really looked at the guidelines that Georgia actually put out. Now I've heard, okay, in the news, because I've read a lot of the articles and the news stories that are coming out of Georgia and everything else. Based off of what I'm hearing, though, Georgia's not even complying with what it is the White House put out.
Yeah.
Because those businesses that you're talking about aren't businesses that would open in phase one. They would probably open in phase two.
Yeah. And the guidelines that they've put out for salons, I know all this because the blackboard and all that.
Right.
It's 4 pages long in small print. And while some of it is normal stuff, like, use your barbicide, like a lot of it's common sense stuff for us, but there's also wear a face mask, wrap your shampoo bowls in saran wrap, make your client shampoo themselves, take their temperature when they walk in the door, change your clothes between every client. I might as well just wear a vinyl suit and go get like pressure washed in the back,
Right. It's like you're working. It's like you need PPE stuff, like you're a medical person just to actually do somebody's hair or to cut their hair or something like that.
That's on there too.
But those are the kind of things that are, Michael, go ahead. What do you think?
The one thing that you also need to be clear about is that the federal guidelines are not mandatory.
Right.
That whatever state guidelines come out will precede
whatever the federal government. Yeah.
These are state-based decisions.
Right.
So just looking at the federal guidelines doesn't make any sense to me at all. This is like what is Florida going to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Brian, are you trying to get on? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we're in an industry that has very little governing above it. We're a gym, but we're not a gym. Everybody touches everything. We have a large facility. but you know, if even if they minimize the amount of people that, you know, we were allowed to let in, we would still be able to let in a significant amount of people at one time. So we're dealing with all kinds of stuff. Like, I mean, we've been working on a plan and have some soft opening kind of ideas and stuff, but I mean, we're significantly affected by this.
Sure, absolutely.
And maybe forever,
Yeah.
depending on how the public comes back and sees everything.
Hey,
But
Brian, just real quick, so everybody kind of understands what you're talking about or whatever. Why don't you tell us, you know, what the company is and what you guys do, just so that everybody's kind of got a frame of reference at least. Because I think your case and the way you guys are assessing it, and I know the guys that own the business obviously very well. These guys are a client of mine, and I've been worried about them from day one. So, Brian, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of background.
yeah, so we're a rock climbing gym, a pretty large facility, and we also have fitness classes, yoga classes, all of these different things, upwards of, you know, 150 to 200 people in the facility at a time, like during super busy times. You know, people sweating, people touching all the holds, one right after another.
Right.
But our industry is kind of unified a little bit by this and started to get on community calls and things to talk about how, as an industry, we can create these standards possibly before the government does, so that we can be like, hey, this is what we've designed, these are the people we've talked to, and how we think that this can best be done. But maintaining like 6-foot distances is all going, we're all planning on having to do that. Like, it's literally changing the structure. We'll probably have to go by a booking only, like no walk-ins. And yeah, it's a big change for us.
Everything is basically complete. You have to look at the entire business model from a completely different perspective based off of what it is that you did before, right? I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
During the, like, depending on if it's a soft opening and we do just members during kind of the COVID situation until things clear up, we haven't decided quite on that, but we do have a good plan in place and we've been talking through it. But some of the things like they talk about for us even is like not being able to use our water fountains, just because people, even if they have to bring their own water bottle, keep their own stuff by their, all separated from other people. You know, no showers, limiting the amount of people that can go into the bathroom at a time, doing people outside of our building before like the next group can even come in. Kind of crazy, weird stuff like that is what is kind of in our future, it looks like. But
wow,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So Brian, this is John Walsh. Those are guidelines that you and people that are in your industry are talking about. Has anybody bounced that off your customers and found out, you know, what it is they're going to be looking for in order to come back?
No, we are pretty low staffed right now. So we're in the process of trying to do a full facility clean and things like that. We're expecting, even if everything were to open up on May 9th, that we will probably have to extend at least until like June 1st or something, just to be able to make sure that facility is cleaned well enough, everything is ready for people to walk in and at least see the cleanest facility that they can see, to give them that impression that, like, you know, we've been working on stuff. But that is a good idea. We'll probably look to do that, maybe some small groups of, you know, long-term members and things, to see how they would accept that.
Yeah, I think you're going to have people on either end of the continuum, some that are just not going to come back at all. Then you're going to have some that are going to have much lower tolerances to different things.
So you just need to kind of find out, what does the group think? And even throw out some of those ideas. If you're bought in on those ideas, then you don't want to throw out an idea that you're really not brought in on, and everybody says, yes, I'm not coming back till you do that. But you might want to get a feel from them. Is your tolerance level to the point where this would work for you, and find out just what it means to them?
Right.
That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
I tell you right now, I'd go to a restaurant today. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
through
don't
our
have an issue with it.
like through our social media response and stuff from our members, like they all seem like they're dying to get back. So
Yeah.
The idea would be to do some focus groups of former customers, or at least a survey of some kind. Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Well, and
I
their
think
group,
educated
their
some-
group and their customers are pretty involved. They've
Yeah.
been, you know, they're very, very customer centric business, the way that they approach things and stuff like that. You know, it's a membership based kind of a model that they have with a large majority of their customers. So I'm sure it'd be easy enough to do that. It's just, I'm sure I know the guys well enough to know that, you know, they're probably, you know, really kind of focused on what it is that they need to do to ensure everybody's safety more than anything else. Because obviously, if you're a rock climbing gym and people are climbing 30, 40 feet up a wall, you know, safety is at the top of your list. So they tend to be a little more safety conscious than the average person, for sure, with what it is that they've got. So, but Brian, I mean, I think you guys have a very very distinctive kind of business model, and I think you guys are really impacted in a big way. It's important for, I think, other business owners to understand, you know, that may be the, you know, they may not have taken the same approach that you guys have and thought about it in the way that you guys have, but they may be impacted in the same way, and they won't know it until they open up the doors. That's why I keep telling everybody, you got to be thinking about this stuff now. You know, I mean, you've got downtime that you can think about it. You know, stop worrying about just the money, because, you know, just getting money right now may just be kicking the can down the road. You have to evaluate to see if it's even worth opening the doors back up at all. You know, it's a hard truth, but.
Well, that's where John's point, I
Yeah.
think is important, that this is the time to find out what your
customer wants.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dino, this is Matt.
Sure, Matt.
Just to kind of launch off of your very last comment there about whether it makes sense to reopen at all. I personally, unfortunately, I have my anticipation is that things are not going to get better real fast. And
Right.
I think there's going to be a lot of, for example, landlord-tenant problems, right? With tenants who can't
Right.
pay rent, and landlords
Demanding
probably
payment.
not running to evict right away. I suspect landlords are going to try to work with their tenants, at least initially, because you know, it's a lot harder, it costs more money to get a new tenant than to keep the one you have. So I think that
Right.
there'll be some opportunities for lawyers, if I may, to work with either landlord clients or tenant clients to renegotiate leases and things like that. I think there might be workouts where lawyers will have to work with either borrowers or work with banks, lenders on dealing with things like forbearance agreements on loans and things like that. I think there probably will be an uptick in litigation, just because when times get tough, people start to fight over things that they maybe wouldn't have fought over before.
And the psychologist is agreeing with you just above.
Yeah, so I mean, I hate to be a downer on the phone here,
No.
but
It's you're actually, I'm glad you're bringing these things up, Matt, because I think everybody just thinks, well, they're going to flip a switch and everything's going to go back to the way that it was, and it's not. It is not going to be that way, and you have to be thinking about this stuff and how are you going to deal with it, as opposed to just opening the doors and that's going to be, you know, and everything's going to be, you know, just the way that it was before.
Now, on the flip side,
glasses.
On the flip side, there'll be opportunities. You know, unfortunately, maybe
Amen.
fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. You know, looking at it from a society perspective, I don't want to get all philosophical on you, but I mean, there'll be opportunities for people to pick up leases at cheaper rates. There'll be opportunities, maybe the foreclosures are going to go up. Maybe there'll be opportunities for people to buy real estate. I think real estate prices are probably going to go down.
Yeah.
I think, again, good side, bad side. There's probably going to be a lot of pent up demand for people like Britt, for hairstylists and dentists and people, massage therapists, and people who haven't been open. People are eventually going to have to get their haircut, going to have to get the massage, going to have to get the teeth cleaning. So there may be some pent up demand for that kind of stuff. That's kind of a good thing. Yeah. On the other hand, people are going to maybe be afraid about doing those kinds of things.
Right.
And also maybe the disposable income to pay for those kinds of things may not be there, particularly at the lower end of our socioeconomic scale. Our waiters and waitresses and our servers and our people in the tourist industry who, they're going to struggle. So anyway, that's my piece. Unfortunately,
no, I appreciate
I have a 2:30 call I have to take.
Okay. No, I appreciate the input for
thank
sure.
you. This has been very helpful to me to hear from all of you. I appreciate
Well, and keep us posted if there's anything new that you hear from a legal standpoint or whatever. We'll make sure we get it out to the group.
Great. Okay.
Evelyn's got her hand up again. So you got a question or a comment?
No,
Evelyn?
it was just a
the leftover. Okay, go ahead.
The comment was related to what I was just hearing, and that is, once again, if I go get my haircut, if I go get my massage, if I go, to a restaurant, are the people who are working, are they also doing the self-care things that they need to do to make sure they keep me safe?
Right.
This is like a huge exercise in trust with society overall, because I'm seeing from day one of all of this, every time I go to the store, there's somebody coughing and sneezing and not wearing a mask. It has been that way from day one, and I've not seen a change.
Yep.
And it makes me crazy that someone doesn't say, do you mind stepping out and finding somebody else to do your shopping for you, please?
I'll tell
But then, yeah.
No, I get it. It's funny because my sister's boyfriend said that exact thing. He went to the store on Saturday, either Saturday or Sunday, and he said he was going into the meat department, and there was a lady that was standing there with her husband. Her husband had a mask on. She didn't, and she's coughing. She's not covering up her mouth, all over the chicken and everything else. And Tyler said he just turned around and walked out. He says, "I'm not getting any meat today because there ain't no way I'm going anywhere close to what I just experienced." But I mean, how many times does that happen in different places? And and the person wasn't there, so you didn't see it. So yeah, I get it for sure. Tiffany, you had a question?
Just a comment. My wife, she's a nanny, and of course she can't nanny right now, so she's doing Shipt, where she goes into the grocery stores, shops for people, and delivers the groceries. So we can have an income. And she tells me stories every single day about, little kids don't have masks, but their parents do. And the kids are coughing and sneezing and touching all of this stuff, and nobody cares. And it's just crazy at what she sends me, tells me. It's a lot of people don't care, unfortunately. Right. And it shows. And I work at the sister salon that Britt works at.
Okay.
And it's crazy to think like we're not working, but my wife has to go out and deal with these people every day that really don't care. And that's the sad but true thing. So no matter where you go, unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with
that, right?
Yeah.
Hey, from some of the other comments that I have a question because somebody's joined us on here and I want to get her perspective. So Kelly, would you mind sharing? Because Kelly Crandall has joined us. Kelly's actually a sales consultant, okay? And she actually is in a couple of groups that I belong to. And we were on a call about a month ago or whatever, and she was talking about sales forces, and if you have salespeople, what you should be doing with those people and everything else. So I'm interested to hear what you've got to say now that we're getting close to that time where they're saying we're going to open the doors back up, Kelly, and you know, kind of what's your words of wisdom from a sales perspective on all of this?
Well, thanks for inviting me in. I'm happy to be here. And if anybody has a specific question, I'm dealing more in B2B business. So for the salon folks, you know, I don't have any great wisdom to share right there. But for the businesses that have sales teams, or if you're the primary salesperson, you know, it's been real clear through this, what's been happening, those who were prepared and who were not prepared. So what I mean by that, you know, any sales team have protocols in place that it wouldn't have mattered if you had to go virtual. So things like, I mean, crazy as it's going to sound, you know, just a weekly sales meeting, right? To keep your team informed and what's happening, and using an online CRM system, which if you're not familiar with that, it's a customer relationship management system that allows everybody to see all of our client and prospect data in real time. And so teams that had, you know, set up some of these standard sales practices and protocols have fared much better, and really we're able, to the extent that clients are still buying in their business, we're able to transition very easily. And those teams that cannot sell right now because their product or service doesn't make sense in this environment, there's a lot of other things, particularly if they're doing the PPP, you know, and they're trying to hold on to people. There's just a lot of other things they could be working on in the business, you know, getting your social media finalized, you know, posting on all the different platforms, you know, building out your recovery plan, you know, which again, just spending time on the business, creating, you know, new demos, new videos, just calling every client that you have and checking in with them. So there's just a lot of people are like, I don't know what my salespeople are supposed to be doing. There's a lot that they could be doing to support when the faucet gets turned back on. So I'm seeing again, I'm seeing those that were prepared are doing better. Some are thriving. You know, I have like a cybersecurity client, like they're busy as all get out, right? Another one that was a manufacturer, they changed the lines to start manufacturing hand sanitizer, which they had never done before, but they were able to pivot and do that very quickly. So companies that sort of have the ability to thrive right now, as long as they were set up with some good protocol, they're going to do well. And then others, you know, that had to shut down, I really feel for them and hope that some of the government programs are going to help you get back up. But if you're thinking about coming back and you're not ready, now's the time to do it, to get ready.
Well, and that's kind of what our message has been as well. That was why I was hoping to get enough input from people and that sort of thing. I've got somebody else that joined us today, and hopefully she'd be willing to share with us as well. Jen, would you be willing to share with us what you've been doing? Because Jen and Mike actually were clients of mine. They're one of my success stories. And I called because I hadn't talked to them in a while and I wanted to see how they were doing. And she started sharing with me, and I was tearing up on the phone while she was sharing with me, because it's like, I'm not there coaching her, but she's doing all the right stuff. So Jen, if you guys give us an idea what you guys have been doing, you know, while everything's been shut down, and how you guys are preparing to, you know, kind of get back to work on the other side of this, I think everybody would be interested to hear.
I'm not sure like what industries everybody is in, but we own a carpet cleaning company. And so thankfully we've still been able to like legally keep the doors open. The demand has dropped, you know, both commercially and residentially. So we're just doing, we had things kind of in place. We took a really bad beating back during the recession. And that's actually, it was a couple years after that we brought Dino in. And so we've thankfully had some things in place for this that we didn't have in place 10 years ago. And so we have definitely, we can see the difference. We can feel the difference. We're able to kind of scale back. We didn't have a whole bunch of debt in place. So we've scaled. Our guys aren't getting 5 days a week, but they're getting 3 to 4 days a week, and we're scheduling, you know, like less people per day. So there's more work for them. So we're just trying to keep them going as much as we can. Just trying to like, you know, I know somebody had mentioned it, just like trying to do everything, just kind of cleaning house now that we have time. We're, tightening up our training policies. We're actually going to start, we do all of in-house training, but we're actually going to start making, since we have time, training videos and just kind of go through what we do and do that. I've got, my brother is a big part of our company. And so just, just running, I've got him, he can't go to the offices and sell like we normally do in the apartment industries. But we've been doing email campaigns that we can email, and then just kind of calling and following up just for, services that they don't normally have time, or we don't have time to try to tend to. Well, like in the summer was when we peak. And so just trying to get, which thankfully we've had some people, bite on that. And so just in our industry, their budgets are different. And so they might not have a budget for this, but they have a budget for that. And so just trying to find those people that have, the certain budgets for this particular service when they wouldn't normally, or just aren't really, that's just not on
Thinking
their agenda.
about those things, until later.
Yeah.
on.
So doing that. And I just listening to what people are saying, I keep finding myself in this like tricky position because just with the service that we offer, we go into people's homes, and we're not like a come to us into where I can like monitor and make sure all of my employees are wearing masks or changing gloves or this, that, and the other. And so a big concern of mine is, what do I do? Like, how do I regulate that? Employees are going to do what they want to do when nobody's watching. And so, what if my guys decide they don't want to wear a mask, or decide they don't want their temperature checked, or, that kind of stuff? Like how far am I willing to go to, keep an employee? It's as business owners, we know how difficult it is to hire and to train, and how much we have invested in this person. And, if I've got all this time and money invested in somebody and he's like, I don't want to wear a mask, that puts me in a really,
Puts you in a bad situation. Yeah.
Bad situation to where, I'm like, do I seriously have to fire this person? Are they willing to lose their job? I hope they aren't willing to lose their job over a mask. I don't know if I'm willing to fire somebody over a mask. It's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah. No, and there are things probably that you could be doing for some of those things. I mean, some of it just may be a matter, and if there are things that you're going to be required to do because of what the regulations are that come from the state and things like that, those may just be things you have to update in your maybe your quality standards or something like that, and having a customer signing off on that stuff, that all that stuff, maybe a checklist that a customer has to sign off on along with the tech or something along those lines. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So, we're full ideas, right? Anybody else like to share at this point? I think, go ahead.
There's been floated out there an idea that and I'm not sure if it's state or federal is not correct, state would be, might have a law that says that you can't evict someone during a certain period of time after they default because of this financial disaster we have going on. Likewise, that banks may have to delay their foreclosures for a longer period of time. If the federal government is planning to do that, they've got a problem, because the constitutional prohibition against them doing things that states have the right to do.
Right.
Trump has already learned that the hard way, but what can I say? The bottom line is that this is a big change. A lot of people who operate real property, whether it's commercial or residential, have big bank accounts to handle no cash flow for months. So if they do that, that's going to be quite a problem.
Right. Well, and that's good. I hate to bring up conspiracy theory kind of stuff, but that plays right into those kind of things, where the people that can do that kind of stuff are the guys that have got the big budgets, and that's that transfer of wealth that everybody's worried about. That's going to go to the bit, I mean, if they start putting the squeeze on it. So, I've seen some rants and stuff like that that I've posted out on my social media, personal ones or whatever, or people that have made some suggestions of things that should be, you know, that seem like pretty common sense things, but you don't know why the banks and, you know, those kind of people won't make those things available. Who knows? I don't know. So, John, looks like you raised your hand there, John
I
Walsh.
just had a comment relating to what Stanton was talking about. I think a lot of the issues, Stanton, that we're going to see out there relating to real estate is going to be very similar to what we saw, what happened with the Great Recession. It's just the volume is going to be tenfold. It's going to be crazy. But the issues are going to be the same. There were a lot of companies that had to renegotiate their leases. You had a lot of businesses that moved from, you know, one site to another and downsized. I think we're going to see a lot of that kind of movement going on. It's just going to be, the volume is going to be so much greater than it was during the recession.
Right. Interesting. David.
Yeah, Dino, thanks for pulling this together. This is a great forum to have this conversation. And I'm hearing a lot of good discussion on the sense of urgency. And I would underline that sense of urgency on getting your operating companies in order.
Right.
I'm sharing with my contacts and clients the urgency around remarketing your company. And I've used this term a lot, but it's really recalculating what your break even is. And where I'm going to end up on these comments is down with Kelly Crandall. But remarketing your company basically is two components. You got to find out what your break even is. You want to reduce your fixed expenses. You want to reduce your variable expenses. And so the past 2 weeks, as an example, if I were running your companies, I would have looked at every single fixed expense item, whether it's a mortgage, whether it's rent, whatever it is, and I would have a conversation with my rep or the owner of that company on relief, some form of cutback, even if it's 6 months of reprieve, if you will, and take every single one of those fixed expense items and see if you can't get that down. Then you move into the variable side.
Yep.
And if you're a manufacturer, you have cost of sales, inventory coming in, you want to talk to every single one of those distributors about cutbacks and how they can help you out, et cetera, et cetera. But the other component there is that labor force.
Right.
And we're in an environment which is really unusual in that the word furlough, the word layoff is common amongst all of us. It's not like I'm scared to bring it up because of what it might mean. Everybody's having that conversation. So you have an opportunity now with those variable expenses and payroll to unfortunately make that hard decision and either lay off or furlough, let people go, which means you now have to do a quality check on who that personality, who that individual is, and can the individual that's remaining do two people's jobs? Unfortunately, that's where we're going.
No, and
Once
I think
you figured out that fixed and variable component, and you know what your break even is, then you got to go after sales like you've never gone after sales before. And what a lot of business owners do is they start off 3 or 4 years. They've got the drive instinct in their gut. They know how to do it, but they grow and they hand pieces of the puzzle off to people.
Right.
Well, you just laid that person off. So I would circle back and maybe have a conversation with Kelly and say, Kelly, tell me what you do. Let me tell you what I do. Let's kind of compare notes, because in probably 30 minutes, she can give you 2 to 3 great ideas that you know about. You did them 5 years ago,
right.
but you forgot about it.
Right.
And I would go after revenue like you've never gone after, because what's going to happen in 6 months, and as John was just talking about, the banks are going to start getting their hands around this, and they're not going to be able to really make some serious decisions until what? 2021. Why? Because they have 2020 fiscal year end sales numbers, and they have to stay within their guidelines. They're going to get conservative. So if your company is straightened out and cash flowing really well, you're going to be in a better position than the competitor down the street.
Right. No, I agree with everything that you said, David. I mean, for the most part, this is why I pushed tuning your revenue engine model that we teach all of our clients, right out of the gate from the get-go, because all the things that you're talking about, you're monitoring those things on a regular basis. So it's very easy for you when when a hiccup comes, or when when a disaster hits, like something like this, to be able to say, okay, I understand exactly where I need to cut, so that it doesn't ripple through, or I cut something in the wrong place. It's going to not expose itself until 3 months down the road, and then it's too late, and now I'm already over the cliff. So no, right on point, John. Right on point. I mean, David, right on point for sure. John, you had a question?
Yeah, so David's comments got me thinking when you started talking about, the break even and looking at that. Pricing is also something you might want to look at, especially for these personal businesses, right? So if I have a rock climbing business and I also do yoga classes and I've got some activities that I do, and I'm limiting the amount of people that can come in at a time, and I'm offering more personal direction while people are there, and they don't need to wait anymore. They know that they're going to be able to come in, get their workout done, and leave. They maybe want to pay more for that. Maybe they would, their tolerance would be more.
Right.
Same with the hair salon. So, your time's certain to have your hair done. You're going to get more personal attention. So there may be a tolerance for a higher price. Just a thought that may go out to some of those types of businesses.
No, that's a good point, John. I mean, it's funny because last night, Britt runs a Facebook group for hair salons and stylists, and there's like 30,000 people in this group. And somebody brought up in one of the conversations last night, well, she's going back, she needs money, so she's jacking all the prices back up. And it's like, are you kidding me? Really? You're just going to jack your prices out without, looking into it or checking out or asking or talking to your customers or anything like that. It's like, and so it got kind of heated on that, just part of that, or that discussion within the group, for sure.
Well, they just need to see an additional benefit, right? Maybe there's a benefit that some of them see, and it's like, okay, it's worth $5 more every time I go, or whatever it might be. I don't know what the pricing.
Well, and that's what I'm telling people is, look, you have to look at the full breadth of what it is that you have available. And then based off of that, make sure that you make the right choices in the right areas. If people perceive value in what it is that you're offering, because like you said, you brought it up earlier, there's going to be pent up demand in some of those areas where I haven't had my hair cut, in a month. I get it cut every week. The people, they'll pay whatever they want, so in those cases, but you can't just knee-jerk reaction do it. You have to look at the whole picture, which is what I think David was really kind of saying. And then based off of what the lay of the land really is, to make sure that you've really kind of figured everything out the way that you need, and you proceed in the proper manner. One of the things that I want to let everybody know that I'm pulling together right now is I've started putting a checklist together of things that you need to be considering as you're beginning to move on, move out and to reopen the doors. The reason that I haven't published that yet at this point was part of the reason why I wanted to have this forum and this discussion today. I wanted to get a feeling for what other people were seeing. I don't want it to be my perspective of what it is. I want that checklist to reflect what it is that's really happening and what people need help with in order to move forward and come back stronger in all of this, as opposed to going backwards with all of this. So anybody else got any comments or things they'd like to share? This was a good conversation. I appreciate everybody for joining me, for sure.
And this is Michael. I apologize for being late.
Sure, Michael. Got any questions for the group or anything at this point?
No.
I'm recording this so you can put it back out there. You can see what we talked about beforehand, for sure. So
perfect. As I join this, and I'm hearing that there could be higher prices for higher demand. I think that's important. As I've been talking to clients, I've been asking them a question, and that is what is not what's top of mind for me, but what's top of mind for you. And some of the feedback I'm getting is it's chaos. And right now, from an emotional reaction, a psychological perspective, people, while while this group is thinking 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead, we're already thinking about 2021 and what that's going to look like this time next year in terms of our planning of what we're trying to do for people. They're on, what do I do May 1st and where do we go? So
Right. Yeah. No, it's a good point. And actually you bring up a good point up, Michael. I mean, in terms of what it was, if any of you listened to the Facebook Live that I did, it's been over a month now since I did that. The number one thing that I said with everything was, you got, fear and can't be a part of your decision-making process in all of this. You got to get control of your emotions and get your emotions into control before you can have any kind of a decision-making, that going to take you in the proper, in the proper direction. The other thing is, if you're not thinking and forward thinking in terms of an offensive strategy as opposed to defensive, well, how am I just going to get through this isn't going to be good enough. You got to be looking farther out. If you're not, it's going, it's going to come back and it's going to bite you down the road. So, that's all I've got. If anybody else has got anything.
In terms of human psychology, the closest thing we have to this is 2008, 2009. And as you remember, that unraveled rather slowly as compared to what we've just experienced.
That's
While
right.
there are different issues, that sense of fear and helplessness is the same component. And it took, people 3 to 4 years to finally unravel what had happened to them and start looking forward again.
Right.
So I know a lot of people are optimistic that, May 1st, the switch goes on and everyone's back out and everything comes back. And while I would love to see that happen and really hope and pray it does, I don't believe that's what's going to happen. And based on everyone I'm talking to, the business owner and their key employees are completely shell-shocked, either trying to figure out how to make payroll or wondering if they're one of the ones who can be cut and someone else can do the job. It may be that they get rid of a lot of lower line workers and the person who was, quote, in management is now doing frontline work and is taking a pay cut just to stay there. So
right. No, those are all good things. I think from a social standpoint, my hope is that what came from all of this is, those people that a lot of people turned their nose up and were the low, considered the lowest of the low from a employee standpoint, and the workforce standpoint or whatever. Those are the people that are on the front lines today, that are the only reason that we don't have mass chaos that's going on in society right now. So hopefully people will, it'll change our perspective on things, and, kind of going forward, we'll have a little kinder heart, I guess, for some of those people. That's my hope. I don't know that that's necessarily human nature. You'd know better than I would, Michael Broom, Dr. Broom. So, but we'll go from there. So that's all I got today. If anybody doesn't have anything, there'll be more obviously to come. I may host something like this again. I know the city of Dunedin has kind of brought us on board to help them with the businesses there in the city. So I'm sure once they see this, they're going to say, oh yeah, we want to do something like that, because they're going to need that. So look for the checklist that I was talking about. I'll probably have that pulled together before the end of the week, and you can probably download that. So I'll be publishing that. One other thing that I want to kind of get out there and let people know about, I don't know if anybody necessarily on the call would be a candidate for this, but I know business owners that might. I'm going to be hosting an online peer group specifically with the intent of working together and helping those people to pull together that game plan that they're going to go out and they're going to launch. I just figured doing it in a group environment, there'll be more of this dialogue that goes on. People will get other ideas from different industries and that sort of thing. And so I think it's just a better way of really doing that. And I can do it for a lot less than I could do if I did it one-on-one. So I know cost wise, people are going to be watching their pennies, but I think that'd be money that'd be well spent kind of moving forward. So that's all I got. Unless anybody else has got any additional comments, and thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
You know, I've got one thing.
Sure.
If you have any clients or know businesses that are based in Pasco County,
yep.
Pasco County Commission just approved a $2 million fund yesterday
okay.
for $5,000 grants. So it's a grant, not a loan.
Okay.
To businesses while they wait for their SBA or PPP
financing.
So if anybody knows anybody in Pasco that could use that, let them know they can go to the Pasco EDC website and fill out the application.
Good to know. Thanks, John. For those of you that don't know, John actually used to be the vice president over there at the EDC, so he's pretty tuned into what's going on up in Pasco County for sure. So, plus he lives there, right? Okay, everybody. Well, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate the input. Very helpful, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Sure.